How was the opening ceremony? I hope that you've enjoyed the ceremony. Through the emotion that vibrates through the JeongSeon Arirang and the messages delivered by the future generations, it was a time for us to think about the kind of efforts we should make right now. And also, I'm sure that you have high expectations for the programs that we have prepared for the upcoming programs. And I think this is the one that draws the biggest amount of attention from the audience. Let us now watch a short introductory video clip on the keynote speech session.
네, 보셨듯이 칼럼
And we will be inviting the director of the Earth Institute at Columbia University, and he's a world-renowned economist. He's going to deliver a live online speech shortly. And before the speech, we will invite the co-chairman of the JeongSeon Forum Organizing Committee and the chairperson of the Kangwon Art and Culture Foundation, Kang. She opened the session. We invite the chairperson Kang, to the podium.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kumsil Kang, and I'll be moderating the keynote speech session. I'm happy to invite Professor Jeffrey Sachs, renowned development economist, and Professor Jeffrey Sachs also established Earth Institute at Columbia University and worked on the environment-related initiatives since 1950. So let us invite Professor Jeffrey Sachs first for his keynote speech. And if time allows, we would like to have a short Q&A session with him. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And good afternoon to everybody. It is really a pleasure and an honor to be with you at this very important forum. And greetings from New York in the middle of the night, but how exciting to be up and awake and listening to this opening session, which indeed was very inspiring. 2 points came to my attention in the opening just now. One was the call for values, sustainable values, because really we're at a moment where ethics is the paramount question. Caring for each other, caring for the planet. We know that this is true in the middle of a pandemic. There is no solution to COVID-19 but cooperation, taking care of each other. And the same is true of our global environmental crises, climate change, destruction of biodiversity, collapse of ecosystems. We must cooperate with each other. This is essentially a challenge of values. Thank you for saying so clearly. And thank you for the young people being so clear about the future. The second thing that struck me about the opening session was when the clock started, we saw 28 years till 2050. Oh my God, 28 years, that's nothing. Psychologically, we may say, well, by 2050 or by mid-century, and it seems like a long way off. But 28 years is a blink of an eye in terms of our lives on this planet and the time that we need to make the changes for safety. In other words, we are so late to convert the energy systems for safety that there is absolutely no moment that we have for delay. Let me say that Korea is in the lead and I'm not just being nice about it, I worked for Secretary General Ban Ki-moon for many, many years, and he put in place the Sustainable Development Agenda for the world. So thank you, Secretary General Ban, and thank you, Korea, for that leadership. And also the scientific leadership of Dr. Lee, the chair of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, one of your great scientific leaders. And the report that just came out from Dr. Lee's Intergovernmental Panel was shocking, of course. We learned that we are absolutely in the middle of such dangerous human-induced change to this planet that we are already in the middle of a crisis unprecedented in climate change of the last 10,000 years. And we just learned a few days ago, though Koreans know it from what happened last month, that July was the warmest month on Earth in temperature record history, the warmest month ever. And incidentally, this was the warmest month in a time when we are in a La Nina phase of the Pacific Ocean, which typically cools the planet. So wait till we swing to an El Nino. We're going to have a further jump of temperature. As the chair just said, I have led the Earth Institute for many years, and that means leading an institute with world-leading climate scientists. And it's a terrifying job because the climate scientists kept telling me, it's worse than we think. It's happening faster than we think. And I was just in communication in recent days with Dr. Jim Hansen, whom I regard as the world's leading climate scientist. He was the lead climate scientist for the US government for 30 years, a genius, a brilliant man. And he says we have accelerated the pace of warming, perhaps to a doubling of the pace of warming each decade compared to previous decades. And so we are in for a lot of warming in the short term. Now, what does all of this mean in terms of what we need to do right now? Let me share quickly 6 key points with you. First, of course, we have to achieve climate neutrality in those 28 years, 4 months remaining, if not faster. That means every part of the planet needs to be on this same trajectory. There's no moment for debate, no moment for the stupidities of climate deniers who have made such confusion for so many years. We have a short period of time and we must act decisively. Not only do we have the new IPCC report, we have a new report of the International Energy Agency, Net Zero by 2050, which shows worldwide we can get there to net zero by 2050. We have the technologies in hand. Of course, we need improvements, but we have a path to success. Now, second point, Korea is on this path right now, and I'm holding the 2050 carbon neutral strategy of the Republic of Korea, which came out in December 2020. This is an excellent document. It is, as I would expect of a Korean document, comprehensive, thoughtful, responsible, systematic, based on evidence, based on technology, which is Korea's strong point of being a technology leader, and recognizing the various components of the path to net zero. Those components are green power. We must produce electricity without carbon emission, whether it's wind, solar, or other ways. It is the hydrogen economy for the parts of the economy that cannot be directly electrified. it is electric transport. I'm sure that Korea is going to be producing some of the finest electric vehicles worldwide. This is a strong point of the Korean economy, and I'm sure we're going to make a very fast transformation worldwide to electric vehicles. The internal combustion engine vehicle is at the end, and we will be transiting to battery electric vehicles very quickly, as well as to other modes of zero carbon transport. It is smart buildings, and Korea is pioneering many new technologies for zero emission buildings and all electric buildings. And it is for new industrial processes, such as hydrogen-based steel production. And again, Korea is a leader in those technologies. So Korea's report is a smart, systematic, comprehensive report showing that, yes, in Korea, this can be accomplished, and that there are multiple steps to take across multiple sectors of the economy: power, transport, buildings, and industry, in order to achieve net zero. Now, the third point that I want to emphasize is that Korea has three major roles to play. In fact, let me say four major roles to play in this transformation. So the first role is to do it yourself. Make sure that Korea decarbonizes. And that is, of course, the preeminent responsibility of all of our countries. And boy, are we late in this. Of course, we had an absolutely crazy and irresponsible president in the United States for 4 years, the worst in our history, who delayed our process for such a long time. Fortunately, we have a rational and nice man as president right now, and that will make a big difference for us. Korea is on the path. Do it. Number two, Korea will play a role as a global supplier of zero carbon technologies. That's a vocation of Korea as a world leader in technology. Korea will help other countries to decarbonize by providing the electric vehicles, by providing zero carbon shipping, by showing solutions in the steel sector, by helping other countries to build zero carbon infrastructure, by having smart digital grids, because Korea is one of the world leaders in the digital technologies. So a second role for Korea will be as a supplier to the rest of the world of zero carbon solutions. A third role for Korea will be as innovator. Korea is one of the world's most dynamic, innovating economies. Korea spends basically first or second in the world of research and development as a share of the gross domestic product. In other words, Korea has made it its economic vocation to be world innovator, to be at the forefront of technology, and has built an education system that is also superb. I can tell you, because I've had so many Korean students who are superb. And the education system supports a high innovation system. So that is a third role. And the fourth role is Korea is a thought leader worldwide, host of the Green Climate Fund, for example, in Incheon. And I'm proud to have been a strong advocate of putting the Green Climate Fund in Korea as that decision was being taken. Because Korea, by hosting the Green Climate Fund, can help to provide solutions for the whole world. Now, the fourth point I wanted to mention is some of the areas where I expect innovation to come. One is in the hydrogen economy, because we will need a hydrogen economy, also as the Dutch special envoy mentioned earlier. And this is taking shape in East Asia and Oceania, a hydrogen economy involving Australia, involving Japan, involving Korea, involving China, And this is a very good point. Not only will this be very important for East Asia, it will be very important for the world, but I think there will be a lot of pioneering on hydrogen coming from Korea. Second is shipping, because we need zero carbon solutions for shipping. And Korea is a lead designer and provider of ocean shipping, and still key to this industry together with China and other neighbors. And so this will be an area of innovation as well. Smart grids, with Korea being so advanced in the pathway to a digital economy, we know that smart systems for energy efficiency, for managing the grid with the intermittent renewable energy sources, for the new vehicles of the future, including what will be self-driving vehicles used in a variety of ways, will require a smart grid. And Korea will be in the forefront of 5G or 6G or 7G in the coming years of our digital solutions. And of course, Korea will be innovating in the transport sector across many different modes. The vehicles, the shipping, perhaps roles in aviation, in rail. And so I expect in all of these areas, Korean R&D to play a significant role. Now, the fifth point that I want to emphasize is the importance of regional cooperation, which is getting harder perhaps than the technology, because everything that involves human beings is harder than when it's technological systems. We need cooperation within every region of the world. We really need close cooperation of China, Korea, Japan, with all of the historic challenges that that poses. The three countries are so important for problem solving. And I so much admire all three. And I know one fact, that if Korea, Japan, and China can work together, the technology powerhouse of the world will be in Northeast Asia, and the solutions that will come will astound the world and help to provide solutions for the world. But this means overcoming legacy issues, some of which are 75 years old or longer. But we need to look forward, and cooperation is key. It's also essential because it's very hard to have a zero carbon energy system just within one country. It's very hard to have a hydrogen-based economy just within Korea. Hydrogen will be traded. It's very hard to have a power grid just within Korea, because it really should be connected with Japan. It should be connected with China. It should be regional interconnection to help balance out the intermittencies. And so I really want to stress this point, which sometimes seems to work against geopolitics. Especially the United States has very bad ideas that we need to divide the world, or we need a Cold War against China, or we can't cooperate, or it's our side versus another side. These are outmoded, bad ideas of my country, and we don't need this kind of division anymore. So I want to emphasize that, and maybe make one more point about regional cooperation, and that is the regional comprehensive economic partnership. The 15 countries that include the 3 in Northeast Asia, China, Korea, and Japan, the 10 in ASEAN, and Australia and New Zealand, is a terrific grouping. It is a free trade area, but it's a great grouping for the climate solutions, because within RCEP, within these 15 countries, you could make a hydrogen economy. You could make an interconnected grid. You could have green electrons flowing across those 15 countries. And I can tell you that all of the countries in the region need solutions together. I'm working with countries in ASEAN right now, and remember that Indonesia will host the G20 next year. ASEAN needs solutions. And by putting this RCEP grouping together, Northeast Asia with technology powerhouse, ASEAN, hundreds of millions of people needing green solutions, Australia, a major provider of the future hydrogen for the region, makes a very tremendous integrated region. And the sixth point that I've already alluded to, but I want to emphasize once again, is Korea's global role. Korea already plays a massively important global role. It was Korean leadership that brought us the Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Climate Agreement under the masterful diplomacy of Secretary General Pan. And it is the IPCC under Chairman Lee, which brings us the best of the scientific information. Now, next month, end of October, I should say, the G20 will be meeting in Italy. A year from now, we'll be meeting in Bali, Indonesia. Korea has a major seat at the table. And with Korea's leadership, we could get the G20 as a group to move forward together and faster. The G20 is about 85% of the world economy. I'm also advocating that it become the G21 by adding the African Union, another 1.4 billion people to the table, by having the African Union represented as the 21st member of the what is now the G20. But Korea can really play an important role in this forum. And it has the heart and spirit to do so, because I see Korea's goodwill all over the world. I see it in Africa. I see it in other countries in need. I know it from my Korean colleagues and friends and students. And I so much admire your country. And I know that this international role is one where you will absolutely play a magnificent role. Well, 28 years, 4 months, and 15 minutes less than we had before I started talking. Let me thank you for having this Citizens Forum. One of the themes of the 2050 carbon neutral strategy is that this must be an action of citizens, of informed citizens. Korea has informed citizens. It has informed young people. It has a superb education system. It has a government of inclusion. Please use these powerful attributes and use your great success and technological knowledge for the global good. It is a matter of values. Korea has those values. Thank you so much for letting me share these thoughts with you today.
네, 감사합니다. 교수님,
Thank you very much. When it comes to the age of globalizations and the technology and institutions, your recent publications, I'd like to inform you that it has been recently published in Korea just last month. Congratulations. I invite all the audience to join us and to read this book. I have a question for you. Now, when it comes to Korea, you gave us a lot of encouraging remarks about our pledges and what we can do. The 6 points that you have made, that was greatly inspiring. And you talked about the cooperative mechanism, and I believe that we need to create a global community. And through a cooperative mechanism, that we would be able to bring substantive changes, positive changes. Now, you are in the United States, and therefore I'd like to ask a question from the Korean perspective. You would see that the United States would join the international organizations and withdraw from the organization. It would impact other countries greatly. There's certain instability that because of the government that comes in and out, goes in and outside the U.S. The presidency, that can bring some instabilities. And also the IPCC report said that the rising temperature, the pace of the rise is much faster than we anticipated. And therefore, although we are making efforts, people are having doubts as to whether that the efforts are going to be meaningful. So on these 2 points, I'd like to ask your thoughts. What's your take on these?
Thank you very much. Let me say that, thank thank God we got rid of Donald Trump. As I said, he was a very dangerous man and a very, very misguided person without the values or the knowledge to be president. And President Biden, whom I've known personally for 30 years, is a very decent man. And he's very committed to what we're talking about today. But I also have to tell you, the United States remains a politically divided country. We are not in good shape. Our culture is not functioning properly. People have very confused, even very dangerous ideas about freedom. You know, in America, freedom is the watchword, but people think freedom means freedom to be reckless, freedom to be irresponsible, freedom not to wear a face mask, freedom not to get a vaccine, freedom to pollute. So it's not a smart kind of freedom, but it is part of American culture, not all of it, but part of our society. So we're really in the middle in the United States. It's called a culture war. I hope it doesn't come to a war, certainly, but it is a very difficult situation. And President Biden has, if you could say a majority in the Congress, well, it's 50-50 between the two parties. If it's a tie, the vice president can make the tie-breaking vote. So President Biden can pass some legislation, but boy, are we divided in the United States. This means we can't wait for the US to lead. Certainly not. Don't even think about US leadership. We just want US cooperation. We've seen the debacle in Afghanistan in recent days. We need cooperation among many, many countries. We can't count on the US, but we have to help and work for the US to be a normal part of the world right now, a constructive part. This is certainly President Biden's idea. And I'm really hoping for his success and his administration's success. It's filled with friends of mine and colleagues of mine and trying to do the right thing, but in a divided culture in the United States right now. One of the bad ideas coming out of America is a very anti-China sentiment. And this I find very dangerous because we need cooperation with China. We need really better understanding. I think in your neighborhood, you know and understand that. And I think the opportunities are there for cooperation as well. And so this is an idea that I'm not very happy about coming out of the United States. We need to lower the temperature. We need cooperation. We need to stop sanctions everywhere. We need to stop all of these difficulties because we're not going to solve our real problems if we're fighting with each other. We're only going to solve them if we're working together. You ask about, can we do it? And just to conclude on that point, yes, but just barely. And we are so late that we need to do what the International Energy Agency said clearly. Not a single new investment in fossil fuel technology or infrastructure right now. We need to move. No more coal plants. This is a message I repeat to friends in China, and it's true across the region. To Australia, stop your exports of coal. We can't go on this way. And so we are so late in the game. And temperatures are now rising probably at a rate of more than 0.3 degrees Celsius per decade. So we could breach the 1.5 degree limit within the next 10 years. But that doesn't mean it's over. It means, my God, let's hurry with the solutions we know and take every opportunity for maximizing investments. And one more point that I should mention, what the governments in developing countries say to me every day is we want to do more, but we need help with the technology and we need help with the financing. And so we need to construct a financing system where it's not just the rich countries that can borrow at low cost, but also the poor countries. And for that, we need a bigger role for organizations like the Green Climate Fund, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, the Asian Development Bank, and other multilateral institutions to enable the scale of financing that developing countries are really begging for. They want to move, but they need the financing to be able to move. So this is one of the key changes that needs to be made.
네, 교수님
Thank you very much for your insightful answer, Professor Sachs. And thank you for your kind and lengthy answer, despite my lengthy portion. So from the perspective of JeongSeon Forum 2021, it's a great pleasure and honor to invite such a renowned and great development economist, Professor Jeffrey Sachs. So we are going through a lot of difficulties in the midst of a pandemic. However, we need to join our hands with our neighboring countries and the countries in the region and the international community. And Korea can play a leading role, taking the leadership in the international community, providing all the needed supports as much as we can. And that's the kind of key message that we can take away from the keynote speech session of Professor Jeffrey Sachs. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, we just had a Q&A session to participate by Professor Jeffrey Sachs and the chairperson, Kang. And we have heard a lot about cooperation. And given the time constraints, we'd have to let Professor Sachs go. But I'd like to ask you to make closing remarks, if possible.
give few words to the Korean audience.
I want to say that I want to be with you in person as soon as possible in your beautiful country with the beautiful people. It's so nice to be connected this way right now so we can be with each other and move forward together, but I'm coming in person soon. So I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you so much. And thank you for your leadership for this important forum and for all that you are doing for the world. Thank you.
고맙습니다. 네,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
쳐 있는
And thank you, Professor, for your message of support and hope for the audience who are rather exhausted these days from the prolonged corona situations. I'd like to thank Professor Jeffrey Sachs for sharing his insight on the values to be upheld by individuals and states, and the Chairperson Kang for navigating the Q&A session on our behalf with excellent questions. Before we wrap up the keynote speech sessions, we would like to present you. Actually, the making process has been shown during this lecture. We'd like to present you with a visual thinking drawing that shows the contents of the lecture. Just try to take a look.
네, 미래 사회를 향한 교수님의 연설과 이사장님의 대화.
Well, the screen shows a clear picture of Professor Sachs's speech and the conversations with the Chairman Kang. The drawing will also be posted later on the JeongSeon Forum's Instagram account. And we look forward to your visits. We'll now take a break and have an invited lecture by Professor Choi Jae-chun. During the break, we will be holding various events for the online audience. So please don't miss out. And I'll see you in a few minutes. Thank you.